Estamos grabando. Ok, hoy día comenzamos con la segunda unidad del curso, tal cual como lo dije a principios de este semestre. La unidad 1 es probablemente la más compleja. La unidad 1 es Noun Phrases, la prueba que ya pasó, que aún no reviso, tengo que revisar y subir las notas. Y luego de ver Noun Phrases nos vamos a dar cuenta de que todo lo que sigue es básicamente una repetición de la misma idea, salvo con algunas características más o características menos. Ante esa realidad, les tengo que entregar los siguientes materiales, que no lo hice antes de la clase porque soy un profesor muy flojo. Unidades, UMCE, ya, ¿qué les puedo entregar? Primero necesito que tengamos seguridad de que es un adjetivo, así que les voy a pasar esta cosa que hice para la UDLA, que son Word Classes Adjectives. ¿Sí? Es un buen resumen sobre esto es un adjetivo, hay estos tipos de adjetivos, y existen estos, morfología, grados, comparativos, superlativos, bla, 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 bla. Usted lo lee y con eso debería hacerla como adjetivo, no frase adjetiva, sino adjetivo. Esto es un adjetivo. Se lo voy a mandar y de hecho, chiquillos, vamos a hacer al toque. Entonces, tengo eso y me pillaron ahí que estaba mirando un magíster en educación. Tengo eso y yo necesito de la UMCE, no tengo nota, así que lo tengo que mandar por campus. Calmaseado. Lo vamos a hacer al tiro. Campus, enviar correo a todos los alumnos. Para que se perdón, selecciono archivo. Dropbox Universidades. UDLA, Grammar One, Adjectives. Eso, lo tienen en su correo. Selecciono archivo nuevamente. Dropbox, Universidades, UMCE Morpho, Slides. Y aquí necesito el Adjective Phrase PDF. Aquí está. Y el de Viber. Me deja solo seleccionar uno, perdón. Entonces, Adjectives. S. Comprendo. El de Viber. Selecciono, perdón por demorarme en esto. UDLA, Grammar One, Adjectives. Ahí está el resumen de los adjectives. Entonces, esto es UMCE, GR2, materiales. Tengo sin pila todo. No lo puedo creer. Sé que yo le voy a mandar eso ahí. ¿Se puede avanzar o no? Le voy a ingresar un mensaje. No puedo ingresar un mensaje. Ya hice. Envío correo. Se envió. Con eso en mente, entonces, gente, lo que tenemos es lo siguiente. Usted tiene todos los materiales necesarios para el semestre. ¿Sí? O sea, para el semestre, para la unidad. Una vez dicho eso, denme un segundito, por favor, chiquillos, que estoy con problemas de pilas. A ver si le pongo otra, por lo menos para usar por ahora. Ya. Eso, adjective phrases. We're going to talk about adjective phrases, and this is the second unit for our term. Supposedly this should be easier for you because we already talked about most of the different features that adjective phrases may have. Okay, so we're going to do it in the very same manner we did last unit. So We're going to use this Word file, and I'm going to add certain comments in it, and then we're going to produce certain analysis, okay? Basically, that's it. Si tienen alguna pregunta, simplemente me detienen, ¿vale? Okay, adjectives. 4 criteria. Number 1, they can freely occur in attributive function. That is to say, they can pre-modify a noun appearing between the determiner and the head of a noun phrase. Okay, interesting. So we're going to add some comments on it immediately. Well, first of all, we're talking about adjectives, right? So adjectives, they can be of 2 types. They can be attributive, that's what they say, and the other type are predicative, right? If they are attributive, they are noun heads pre-modifiers, right? So adjectives can be classified into 4 different, or with 4 different criteria. The first of them is the fact that they can be attributive. That is to say that they can appear inside of a noun phrase acting as a pre-modifier, and the place or the position in which they will appear, it is between the determiner and the noun head, right? That's the very first stuff. Like in, for example, an ugly painting. In an ugly painting, you can see that we have this noun head, right? And this determiner, pre-modifier, right? Therefore, ugly is an adjective pre-modifier. We know that this ugly adjective pre-modifier, therefore, it's in an attributive role or position, we would say. The very same with the round table and finally dirt linen. Yeah, you might ask, okay, yeah, I can understand that an ugly painting and the phrase the round table, in both of them, you have an adjective pre-modifier with an attributive role because that adjective it is placed between the determiner and the noun head. But in the third example, we don't have that, right? Why? Well, because we don't have a determiner, right? Well, in any case, whenever you have an adjective pre-modifier, then what you have is what you have is an attributive adjective, right? Well, as a counterpart, we have that they can actually occur freely in a predicative function. That is to say, a function as a subject complement or as an object complement. Okay, this is something different. When I say attributive, let's remember that attributive, what I'm saying is pre-modifier, right? Again, whenever I say attributive, I'm saying pre-modifier. That's the very first stuff. Whenever I say predicative, right, I'm saying adjective phrase. I'm going to explain it. They can freely, important, they can freely occur in predicative function. That is to say, they can function as subject complement or as object complement. That's very relevant. As a subject complement or as an object complement, right? So, for example, in the clause, the painting is ugly, right? What we have is a noun phrase subject, then a verb phrase, verb, and finally an adjective phrase complement. In this manner, what we're saying is this. What we're saying is this. We're saying that ugly is an adjective head of the adjective phrase ugly, right? Now, what's interesting in this is the fact that ugly, right, the adjective is the adjective head, therefore an adjective phrase, first of all. Second thing, it is placed after the main verb, right? Therefore fulfilling the role of a subject complement, right? So whenever I say predicative, I'm saying a couple of things. First of all, it is fulfilling the role of a complement. It can be a subject complement or an object complement, first of all. So what do I need in order to have that? I will need the presence of the verb to be. Why? Well, because the verb to be is a copular verb, right? And as a copular verb, it will provide the valency pattern SBC, right? On the one hand. Therefore, the adjective, it is placed right over there, right? Fulfilling the role of a subject complement, therefore is a predicative adjective, right? In the second example, what we have is something similar but different. Okay, this is the second example. This is the second example. And what we have is this. He thought the painting ugly, right? Okay, this is a clause. It's a simple clause made out of a noun phrase subject, a verb phrase verb, another noun phrase. Okay, so he thought, what did he think? He thought the painting. Okay, so this is an object. And then ugly is an adjective phrase. And it is provided information about, and as you can see, the painting, right? So as a consequence, this is a complement, but an object complement, okay? So again, adjective phrase, object complement produced by the adjective head, ugly. Ugly, therefore, can be categorized as a predicative adjective, right? ¿Todo bien hasta ahí? ¿Alguien tiene alguna duda?
No, profe.
Maravilloso. So, attributive, premodifier, predicative as a subject or object complement. Be very careful with the way in which you can find these two specific valency patterns. I'm going to say it again. The valency pattern SVC is produced by the verb to be, right? And the valency pattern SVOC is produced by certain verbs, like, for example, think, or the verb consider, or the verb judge, and many more. But as a very easy way of remembering this, I can tell you those three different examples. Okay, so basically that's the idea. Let's remember again that whenever we find the valency pattern SVOC, that final C is an object complement, always. And whenever we find the valency pattern SVC, that final C is a subject complement, always. Okay, so be careful with it. Let's move on. Okay, third criteria. Adjectives can be pre-modified by the intensifier very. Okay. The idea here is this intensifier. Whenever we have, or from this point onwards, intensifier. Whenever we talk about intensifiers, we're talking about adverbs, and not only adverbs, but adverbs as premodifiers inside of Notifiers inside adjective phrases. Okay, so adjectives can be intensified, right? In this example, we have the clause, the children are very happy. And again, because of the presence of the verb to be, what we have is this. We have the noun phrase subject, then we have the verb phrase verb, and finally we have this adjective phrase complement. As it is SVC, then this is a subject complement. In the analysis, what we have, I'm just going to do the last one. We have this adjective performing the role of a head, and then in front of that, we have this adverb pre-modifier, right? The third criteria would be that adjectives can be intensified or diminished. Oh, I'm really bad at spelling. I think it's with I. Diminished. So, for example, with the usage of less, like for example, the children are less happy. I think it's less happier than, or something like that, right? But we're going to see that later on. Yeah. So, in fact, every single adjective can be intensified or diminished. In some other grammars, they call this gradability. Gradability has the capacity for adjectives to be intensified or diminished, right? By the presence of an intensifier adverb or a diminishing adverb, something like that, right? But in any case, those adverbs are pre-modifiers. Finally, adjectives can take comparatives and superlative forms. Whenever we talk about comparative, we talk about the addition of, oh, what I'm doing, perdón, the addition of the bound suffix inflectional morpheme, ER in the case of comparatives, and EST in the sense of superlatives, right? So they can take comparatives, ER, and superlatives, EST forms. The comparison may be by means of inflection or by the addition of pre-modifiers, more at most. That is called periphrastic comparison. Lots of stuff to say. The very first stuff is that we can have comparative adjectives, right? So we're going to write it down. Comparative adjectives. So how can we create comparative adjectives? So we can say taller, for example, right? Taller. So if I say taller, and in our morphological analysis, we will have a free morpheme, tall, and then the addition of a bound morpheme, suffix, inflectional, ER, right? Therefore, the comparison may be by means of inflection, which is the one I presented, or by the addition of pre-modifiers, right? So I can do it in that way, or I can say this more. Beautiful, right? In that case, what we have is a adverb pre-modifier, and we have an adjective head, and this is a free morpheme, and this is not a morpheme, but this is a complex lexeme made out of the free morpheme beauty and then the bound morpheme, suffix, derivational, full. Okay, why am I doing all this stuff? I'm doing all this stuff in order to show you the way, to show you this, that the addition of free modifiers, more and most, for example, in more beautiful, you can also have a comparative adjective out of that. In fact, what you're going to have is a comparative phrase, right? Adjective phrase, but whatever, right? They call them comparative adjectives. In any case, that way, or that feature, the feature of adding another element to modify the following would be called periphrastic comparison, right? Periphrastic. So periphrastic means the addition of this adverb premodifier to the adjective head beautiful, right? So that is called periphrastic comparison, and obviously I'm going to ask that on the test. Okay, so any question? ¿Preguntas? No?
No, profe.
Damos. Syntactic functions. So attributive and predicative adjectives. The adjective function, denme un segundo, por favor. Ya, he vuelto. Syntactic functions, attributive and predicative adjectives, the adjective functions as the head of an adjective phrase with or without modification. Okay, we know that? Yeah, we know that. How can I prove it? I can prove it with an example. For example, you are tall, right? In you are tall, we have a clause, and that clause is composed of 3 different phrases. And then the final phrase is an adjective phrase acting as a subject complement made out of an adjective head. The adjective functions as the head of an adjective phrase with or without modification. And as you can see in this example, the adjective tall is acting as the head of an adjective phrase without modification. Can I do it with modification? Absolutely. You are more intelligent, whatever. Right, and you are more intelligent, what you have is an adjective phrase, right? Acting as a subject complement with an adverb premodifier and an adjective as a head. Therefore, an adjective can act as the head inside of an adjective phrase with or without modification. It is true. Second, adjectives are attributive when they premodify the head of a noun phrase. Adjectives, yeah, we know that, right? So for example, if I say, stupid piece of whatever, okay. So for example, if I say the strong girl, right? The strong girl. Okay. If I have that, we have a noun phrase. We don't know. We might assume it's a subject, and then the girl is a noun head, and then we have this adjective as a premodifier, and then we have the as a determiner, premodifier again. Then what we have is the following: the strong girl is a noun phrase. The noun head is girl, and then strong is the adjective premodifier. Therefore, is performing the role of an attributive adjective because it is premodifying a noun. Adjectives, the second part. Adjectives are predicative when they function as subject complement or object complement. Yeah, the very same stuff I told you. So my first example would be something made up with the verb be, Like, for example, I don't know, I am, and then an adjective. I am thin, which is a lie, whatever. And in this, the verb be produces this valency pattern, right? This valency pattern. So yeah, it is true. And now we have an object complement. I told you that there are certain verbs which will produce the SVOC valency pattern. And for example, judge. Um, I judged you guilty. I judged you guilty, right? So in this, we have a clause made out of four phrases, and the final phrase is an adjective phrase, object complement, because this is the object, right? This is the adjective head. Therefore, adjectives are predicative when they function as subject complement. Therefore, as the adjective phrase subject complement thin in the very first example, or as an object complement, which is the adjective phrase object complement guilty in the second example. Syntactic functions. Adjectives are subject complements not only to noun phrases, but also to clauses, which may be finite or non-finite. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, easy. Adjectives are subject complements not only to noun phrases. Okay, what they're saying is this, that that adjectives are subject complements not only when the subject is a noun phrase, not only in that case, but also to clauses when we have these clauses which are placed in the position of a noun phrase. So for example, let's take a look at this example. That you need a car is obvious. Well, here we have something that we haven't seen so far, and it is the presence of that clause. That clause. That clause. In fact, the real name is nominal that clause. Okay, that's the real name, nominal that clause. Why nominal? Because those clauses can replace noun phrases, right? In terms of valency patterns. Okay, so a that clause is a clause which replaces syntactically a noun phrase. Therefore, that you need a car is obvious. What we have is that this is a clause, right? That you need a car is obvious is a clause, and that in the place of a subject, we don't have a noun phrase, but we have a that clause, right? Then we have the verb phrase verb, and then we have the adjective phrase. Now, acting as a subject complement. So again, I'm going to read it all over again. Adjectives are subject complement not only to noun phrases, but also to clauses, which may be finite or non-finite. In this case, this is finite because it has tense. Now, that you need a car, therefore, is replacing syntactically, that is to say, in its position, we would say, a noun phrase, right? I can replace it by a pronoun anyway. It is obvious, right? Therefore, it is that replacement is telling me that the whole that clause, in fact, is acting as a reference to an entity of some kind. Therefore, I can use a pronoun. Therefore, the whole that clause is acting something like a noun, I would say, right? Now, as in every single clause, I have to state the phrases which is being composed of, right? So what I'm going to do now is doing this, right? Okay, here we have something different that we haven't seen so far, and it is the fact that this word, that, can be classified into very different things, right? I mean, it can be classified or it can be part of different classifications, basically depending on the role, right, which is being doing, right, or in which we're using it. The very first and obvious classification would be as a determiner, right? Whenever we say that house, right? That house over there, right? Very far away. On the other hand, it can be a pronoun. Like, for example, that is what I want. That is what I want, right? That is what I want. So in that case, that is replacing, right? Is replacing an entire noun phrase, therefore acting as a pronoun. Finally, that can be classified as a subordinating conjunction. Okay, it can be classified something like a subordinating conjunction. In fact, I would say it is just a conjunction. That is to say, an element which is used so as to link to different units, right? To different units. Okay, so how can I state the difference between them? The very first one of them, the determiner that must be accompanied by the presence of a noun head, right? Therefore, creating a noun phrase, right? And even you can even translate that, and I think it will make more sense for you. Like, for example, esa casa, ese, ¿cierto? Cuando funciona como ese, esa casa, que al lado hay un noun, then what you have is a determiner. When you don't have nothing else, then it's a pronoun. For example, that is what I want. That was what I was trying to tell you. I told you that, right? Eso. And finally, the subordinating conjunction would be when it means que, right? Que. So, for example, in this, that means que, right? Therefore, it's a subordinating conjunction. Therefore, it is not part of the noun phrase subject. It is not part of that, right? So we have to leave it alone. This is a subordinating conjunction. Then what we have over here is a noun phrase subject produced by the pronoun head you. Then we have need, which is the verb phrase verb produced by the verb head need. And then we have the noun phrase a car, which is an object, right? Because it is answering the question what, right? What? Produced by the presence of the determiner pre-modifier a, and then the noun head car. Finally, we have the verb phrase verb is, verb head, and then we have obvious, which is the adjective head of that adjective phrase. Okay, all over again, I'm going to make a recap. Adjectives are subject complement not only to noun phrases, but also to clauses like the one we are seeing right here, which may be finite or non-finite, okay? Any question? No? Okay.
No, profe.
Okay. Syntactic functions.
Perdón, disculpe,
Dígame.
antes de que siga, entonces cuando hay un that que funciona como que solo se pone el subject conjunction abajo, nada más.
Subordinating conjunction.
Ya, gracias.
Ok. Siempre que funcione como que, cuidado, por la explicación que vi ahí arriba, ahí. Justo ahí. Okay, syntactic functions, adjectives can also be objects to clauses. Oh, esto siempre es peludo, siempre me cuesta explicar esto, y siempre me enredo. Adjectives can also be objects to clauses, okay? Supposedly here we have an adjective and that adjective is acting as an object. Let's see. I consider what he did foolish. So this is my verb phrase verb. I consider, what do I consider?
What he did.
What he did. Foolish. And then I know this is the verb phrase verb. I considered what he did. I considered what he did foolish, okay? So I know this is a noun phrase subject, this is a verb phrase verb, and ¿qué es lo que considero? What he did, ¿cierto? Esa es una WH clause. In fact, esa se llama WH nominal clause, but whatever. Si pregunto, ¿qué es lo que considero? What he did. ¿Y cómo lo considero? Foolish. Pero no me da. Porque me quedaría así. Adjectives can also be object to clauses. No entiendo cómo. ¿Cierto? Porque yo voy a voy a hacerlo de nuevo intentando explicar mi razonamiento. I consider what he did foolish. I'm going to go and look for the main verb, or that is to say, the main verb phrase, which is consider, right? Consider. Then I would be my noun phrase subject, right? Consider would be my verb phrase verb, and then what he did foolish. I considered what he did foolish. I considered what he did foolish. Yo lo veo separado. Ese es mi problema.
Profe, pero did no sería un verbo auxiliar que funcionaría, o sea, podría estar dentro de la clause.
Un auxiliary verb, buena pregunta, muy buena pregunta. Un auxiliary verb requiere detrás de él un main verb. ¿Cierto? Cierto. Ahora, tenemos ejemplos en los cuales yo solo vea un auxiliary verb por sí solito. Ya, porque uno, bajo este razonamiento, si yo dijera que did es un auxiliary verb, así estoy diciendo que foolish es un verb head, ¿cierto? Eso es imposible. Foolish no es un verbo. Foolish es un adjetivo. Entonces, ese análisis está malo. Esta es mi versión 1. Versión 2. Versión 2. ¿Puedo tener un auxiliary verb solo? ¿Solo? Aparentemente sí.
¿Podría ser para reemplazar un objeto? No estoy segura, pero podría funcionar así o no.
No, porque si tuviéramos un auxiliary verb solo, sería como una respuesta yes, I do. Como una yes, no questions. Yes, no questions. Yes, no questions. ¿Qué es una yes, no questions? Es una pregunta cuya respuesta es yes, I do, no, I don't. Y son todas las del presente simple, básicamente, o de los simples, ¿cierto? Como, have you, no sé, do you play this? Yes, I do. Did you play that? Yes, I did. ¿Cierto? Como, for example, do you play this? La respuesta sería yes, I do. Ahí se puede. ¿Qué significa eso? Eso significa entonces que ese do, voy a hacerlo con otro color, ¿cierto? Ese do está, le falta algo que atrás, ¿cierto? Se omitió. ¿Qué se omitió? Play. Y en fact también se omite this. ¿Por qué se omiten? Porque es repeated information. Repeated information. Entonces, sí, ¿dónde puedo encontrar un auxiliary verb por sí mismo? Lo puedo encontrar cuando tenemos yes, no questions y cuando hay repeated information. Basically every single time, because I will always answer yes, I do, no, I don't. Or the verb be, right? For example, is it pity? Yes, it is. Right? Is it a shame? Yes, it is. Right? In this case, do we have that? I considered what he did foolish. I don't think we have that. What I see is this. So that's why I was telling you, I'm always having problem with this example because I can't find the way in which producing that analysis. Perhaps I will need to answer this to Roberto or Leandro or Pablo, perhaps. In my analysis, I can see this. I think it is, I considered what it is foolish. I considered what did I consider? What it did, right? So I think this WH nominal clause, I can see that as an object because it answers the question what, and then how, right? How I consider that. I consider that foolish, right? So therefore, this adjective phrase is acting as an object complement. But the problem is that adjectives can also be objects to clauses, and I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. Eso. Right.
Profe, ¿podría repetir la última parte porque me perdí?
Mira, es que lo que hago mis preguntas para encontrar cuál elemento de los valency pattern es, ¿cachai? Entonces, primero súper fácil el verbo, ¿no? Consider. Adelante está el sujeto, I. Luego, what it did foolish, me pregunto, ¿qué es lo que considero? What it did. ¿Cómo lo considero? Foolish. Entonces, por ese motivo digo que what it did es una WH nominal clause because of its form, y como respondió a what, es un objeto. Y que foolish es una adjective phrase, y como responde a how, I considered that, es un object complement. Y no lo veo de otra forma. No lo veo como dice ese enunciado. Ahora, ojo, ¿de dónde saqué ese enunciado? Ese enunciado lo saqué de Quirk. Ahora, ¿qué es Quirk? Quirk es un grammarian super, ultra, requete, contra, mega, súper famoso. ¿Cachai? O sea, Quirk muy seguramente está en toda la razón. El problema es que en ese ejemplo yo no veo lo que él dice. ¿Sí? Basándome, porque no lo veo, basándome en los análisis de los constituyentes de la cláusula. Valency patterns. Eso fue lo que dije. That's why I wrote down, I don't agree with it, at least with that example. Vamos a buscar qué pasa con eso. Voy a avanzar también. Syntactic functions. Adjectives can also be post-positive. Oh, esto es importante. That is to say, they can immediately follow the noun or pronoun. So, okay, so far we have said that an adjective can be predicative, can be attributive, but now I am also telling you it can be post-positive. Súper importante que estas tres características nosotros las sabemos, mas no las entregamos en los análisis sintácticos. Therefore, the information is useful, right? The information is useful. Eso es una cláusula. The information is useful in the analysis, noun, phrase, subject, verb, phrase, verb, and then adjective, phrase, subject, complement. Therefore, predicative, check. Attributive, useful information, right? This is a noun phrase. We don't know its valency pattern because it is in isolation. But then what we have is a noun head, information, and then useful, which is the adjective premodifier, right? The adjective premodifier. Therefore, what we have is an attributive adjective because it is premodifying a noun. And now what we have is something else, something useful, right? In something useful, I'm also having this, right? Which is a noun phrase. We don't know its syntactic, its valency pattern, right? The category within the valency pattern. But what we do have is that something is a pronoun, and then useful is an adjective post-modifier. Now, here we have something quite interesting, and is the fact that there are many more pronouns than the ones we always deal with, right? Like, for example, something. Something is a pronoun, right? Something is a pronoun, right? Like, for example, anybody or somebody, right? So be very careful. There are more pronouns than the ones we are always dealing with. Ok. ¿Puedo seguir o no?
Sí.
Therefore, pregunta de prueba. Compound indefinite pronouns. Ay, perdón. Escuchan a mi pareja, ¿no? Está dando clases de historia. Compound indefinite pronouns. Okay. And adverbs ending in body, one, thing, where can be modified only positively. Right? Okay, so this is the idea. Okay, so if I read anyone, the very first stuff I'm going to say is we're going to look for what anyone is. Anyone is a pronoun, right? Is a pronoun, and it is a pronoun and just a pronoun, right? So we will say that this is the very first example. First example, can do, it, right? Okay, so this is a noun phrase subject made out of a pronoun, head, and then we have this adjective post modifier. Why? Because this is a compound indefinite pronoun. Any one compound, right? What do we have here is the absence of apparently omitted information, right? So what will happen if we have it in that manner? Then the whole analysis will change. What we will have, it would be like this: anyone who is intelligent. I'm just going to do that. Okay, this still will be a noun phrase subject. This still will be the noun head, but then what we have is a relative clause, right? Post modifier, which inside of it will have this noun phrase subjects, pronoun head. Why am I doing this? Let me. Oh, okay, whatever. Then I will have this verb phrase verb made out of the verb head is, and finally I will have this adjective phrase, subject complement, adjective head. Lo que quiero que le pongan mucha atención, chiquillos, es esto, miren. Si ustedes ven, estamos hablando de que anyone es un compound indefinite pronoun y que los compound indefinite pronouns pueden ser post-modified by adjectives, ¿sí? Así que sí, es cierto, no todos los adjetivos que están dentro de una noun phrase son attributive, no todos. Hay un grupo de ellos que son post-positive, right? Primera cosa. Segunda cosa, los adjetivos post-positive son producidos por el noun head. El noun head es el que obliga a que esté el post-positive y no el adjetivo al noun head, ¿sí? Es el noun head que lo obliga. ¿Qué tiene que tener ese noun head? Ese noun head tiene que ser un pronoun, pero no cualquier pronoun, tiene que ser un compound indefinite pronoun, ¿ya? Eso es una cosa. Después vimos el ejemplo, anyone intelligent can do it. Muy fácil y normal. Pero ¿qué ocurre si hubiese estado who is? Entonces nos cambia totalmente el análisis. Porque who is intelligent produce una relative clause post modifier. Lo que quiero que vean es esto de aquí. ¿Dónde está? Ahí está. Ya. Estamos hablando de... Voy a hacer más grande. Ya. Me interesa esto de aquí. Si ven eso, relative clause post modifier, que está hecha, está hablando de esto, de una noun phrase subject, de una verb phrase verb y de una adjective phrase subject complement. O sea, este es el valency pattern. Como pueden ver, intelligent, o sea, la adjective phrase subject complement, mantiene la misma regla, o sea, es predicative. ¿A qué es lo que quiero llegar con esto? Quiero llegar a la siguiente idea. Los valency patterns, si bien es cierto, es algo que nosotros no medimos en este curso, sino que serán medidos en el curso que sigue, ya en profundidad. Nosotros ya sabemos un par de cosas de ellos. Lo primero que sabemos es que están en las cláusulas. Clauses. No en las frases, en las cláusulas. Y que las frases son cada frase representa uno de estos elementos del valency pattern. También sabemos, espera un poquito. Valency pattern element. Eso, ¿sí? Entonces, a valency pattern then is a pattern in which every single English clause is created, right? We know that. Therefore, a valency pattern is in immediate or it is closely related to clauses. The second thing we know is valency pattern. The valency pattern then is a series or a mixture or a combination of elements, right? And that combination, within that combination, one of those elements or every single one of those elements is related to a phrase of the clause, right? Therefore, phrases are valency pattern elements. Third thing we know, sometimes VP elements okay, muy mal escrito. Sometimes clauses are VP elements. That's the way I should have written that. Sometimes clauses are also VP elements. Like for example, whenever we have a that nominal clause and a WH nominal clause, for example, or subordinate clauses like if I study, I will pass the exam. Therefore, if I study would be an adverbial. Therefore, the whole clause is considered to be one element, one valency pattern element. Okay. Okay. Una vez dicho eso, y me di una vuelta más o menos larga para lo que quiero explicar, lo que les quiero decir es lo siguiente, que va a ser súper relevante de ahora en adelante, porque como vamos a trabajar oraciones mucho más grandes, muy seguramente el valency pattern que usted vea en relación a los cuatro elementos, ¿no? SVO-C, SVO-O, SVO-A, cada uno de estos elementos ya no esté hecho por una frase, sino por una frase y algo más, o derechamente por una cláusula. Si la cláusula genera un elemento del valency pattern, adentro de esa cláusula hay otro valency pattern que mantiene las mismas reglas. Esa es la magia del sistema. ¿Ya? El ejemplo que vemos aquí en pantalla, anyone who is intelligent, es bien interesante porque nos produce la siguiente respuesta. nos dice que intelligent, al ser un adjetivo, anyone intelligent, en ese caso, intelligent es un post-positive adjective, ¿sí? Pero si aparece dentro de la relative clause, o sea, anyone who is intelligent, en ese caso, intelligent se transforma en un subject complement y se transforma desde un post-positive a un predicative adjective. Entonces, lo que me interesa de que ustedes comprendan ahora es que la idea de valency pattern no es solamente al momento de revisar la cláusula mayor, sino que también en todo momento que existe una cláusula y un valency pattern que se debe cumplir, ¿sí? Y es un buen hint para poder realizar análisis. Veamos la segunda oración. I want to try on something larger. Okay. I want to... Ay, no, ¿qué hice? I want to try on something larger. I want to try on something larger. I want to try... Creo que es try on. I want to try on something larger, right? Therefore, this is a clause with its own valency pattern. Profe, ¿por qué dejó want to, try on todo junto? Porque want to es un auxiliary verb, es un semimodal, free modifier, y try on es un phrasal. Ay, soy tonto. Something larger es una noun phrase. Profe, ¿por qué es una noun phrase? I want to try on what? Esto, objeto. Porque something es un pronoun. Y representa y responde a la pregunta ¿qué? ¿Qué es lo que quiero probar? Something larger. Y larger es un adjective post modifier, ¿cierto? ¿Por qué es post modifier? Porque something es un... Oh, se me olvidó el nombre. Indefinite pronoun. Compound indefinite pronoun. Something. Compound indefinite pronoun. Lo mismo con we're not going anywhere very exciting. We are not going anywhere very exciting. We are not going anywhere very exciting. Pero aquí ya se pone más interesante. Noun phrase subjects, verb phrase verb. We are not going. ¿A dónde van? Anywhere. Very exciting. Esto es una adjective phrase adverbial. Porque responde un dónde, ¿cierto? We are not going. ¿Dónde? Anywhere, ¿cierto? Very exciting. Aquí anywhere es nuestro compound indefinite pronoun, therefore pronoun. Y luego very exciting. Oh, pero miren esto, very exciting. Porque esto es una adjective phrase. Y la adjective phrase es post-modifying anywhere. Adentro de ella está el adverb, free modifier, very, y luego exciting, que es nuestra adjective head. Con eso les quiero contar que, y nuevamente ocurre lo mismo que dijimos con las noun phrases. What I want to tell you is we're not dealing with the idea of an adjective as a single word, but with an adjective and all its possibilities. So, for example, whenever I say that an adjective can be predicative, what I'm in fact saying is that every single instance of an adjective can be predicative. Like, for example, an adjective phrase, right? Or, for example, in this case, whenever we have this adjective post modifier, where I'm not saying that a single adjective can be post modifier. What I'm saying is that every single instance of the usage of an adjective can be postposed. Like, for example, this adjective phrase. Eso. ¿Alguna duda, chiquillos?
Creo que no.
Ya. Ya, me cansé. Lo vamos a dejar hasta acá. Queda poquito. Eso es todo lo que queda. Lo vamos a dejar hasta acá para ver la próxima semana. Para ver, ya no nos juntamos hasta la próxima semana, ¿cierto?
Hasta el lunes, profe.
Ya. Vemos complementación y después de eso nos tiramos con ejercicio y ya estamos. Vamos a revisar también el divider. ¿Ya? Les dejé, chiquillos, para que vean. Les dejé 3 cosas. Les dejé slide.
Profe,
Dígame.
¿sabe que en el correo no adjuntó nada, solo envió el mensaje?
¿En serio?
Sí.
Dame un segundito. Déjame revisarlo aquí. Vamos a entrar de nuevo. Selecciono archivo. Selecciono archivo. ¿Qué es esto? Adjectives. Ahí está cargado. Agrego. Dropbox. Universidades. UMCE-GR2 test. Slide. Adjectives. Selecciono. Agrego. Adjectives. Divert. Ahí está. Selecciono. Para todos los alumnos. Vamos de nuevo. UMCE-GR2. ¿Qué? Adjunto. Envío. En teoriales se los envié. Ya, entonces les adjunté. ¿Qué les adjunté? Estoy revisando el correo. Ahí le llegó. Los revisé en mi celular. Están los 3 archivos para descargar. Véanlo, revísenlo. No va a decir nada mucho más de lo que acabo de decir. Solo nos queda revisar los complementos de una adjective phrase y luego de eso hacer muchos ejercicios. Pero es solo esto. Te recuerdo que la siguiente prueba es adjectives y adverb phrases. ¿Ya? Así que terminamos con adjectives y nos vamos con adverb phrases, que inclusive menos que esto. Así que estaríamos listos para la prueba súper luego. ¿Ya? Esto está grabándose, lo renderizo, lo subo. ¿Sí? Eso. ¿Alguna
Gracias,
duda?
profe.
Dale, tranqui. Eso. Que estén súper. Cuídense mucho. Dígame.
Profe, yo quería hablar con usted, pero algo que no tiene nada que ver con la clase. ¿Se podrá?
Escríbame. ¿O prefiere hablarlo?
No, prefiero hablarlo. Es que algo nada que ver con el ramo.
Ya, espérame. ¿Cómo lo hacemos? ¿Podí como a las 5:30, no?
Sí, igual puedo.
Ya, mándame un correo con una invitación para alguna cosa de una videollamada, pues.
Ya, profe, ahí se lo mando.
¿Sí? Un meet, algo así. Yo después de las 5, tengo clase hasta las 5:30. Sí, está como a las 5:30.
Ya,
De 5:30
vale.
a 6 tengo rato. Ahí me avisáis.
Ya, gracias.
Dale, 50. Oye, cuídense mucho, el resto. Que estén súper.
Chao, que esté bien.
Chao, chiquillos.